From Wall Street to Main Street, this is LALATE.
It's a big evening of Evenings LA with incredible great news about your fourth stimulus check update of 2022. In tonight's recording, we go over the breaking news as an $80,000 new stimulus check is going out to millions of Americans in face of the world events unfolding. In tonight's recording, we'll go over that $80,000 check and how you can get it as wheat prices surge out of control. Gasoline prices growing by the minute and a situation very fluid across the land. We'll be looking at where money is landing and where money could be landing for you with those new $80,000 of checks. Then we'll be looking back at the situation unfolding back on Capitol Hill and Wall Street, as the numbers are very compelling. The President of the United States says that Build Back Better Act will pass and those incredible checks will be coming to you. But how soon will they be happening, and CR for stimulus right around the horizon? All the latest details of what J-Powell is doing to curb inflation and SS300, how it impacts your money across the board. Wheat and oil prices raging out of control tonight, and the White House having new indication of what they may do to curb the situation. Is it soon enough or is it late enough? All the latest details across the board. Cutting back to Ukraine and Russia, Vladimir Putin's acts of aggression advancing across the board. But why is this big and why is it not good? All of the impact on your money back home. Wheat prices, grain, soybean, corn, growing substantially, as the assault by Vladimir Putin on the Black Sea could interrupt international trade, and far more than what we see with oil. But how about those partner countries? Have they done anything to step up? And what is the White House doing to solve the situation? We'll be looking at the humanitarian issue as well, as corridors where families, mothers, and daughters are trying to flee to Poland are being blocked. What is a delegation doing tonight to solve the situation? It's a breaking news with a lot of money at issue, and the incredible money at issue involves your pockets, and it's all impacted back at home. Fourth stimulus, third stimulus, $80,000 of new checks, CR for stimulus. Big money going out from this White House, and not all at the same time. Of all those incredible details in a breaking news 1 hour telecast. It's Primetime's most watched show for financial news in America. And it starts right now as Evenings LA gets underway from the shores of Santa Monica with our thoughts and prayers of the people overseas. Starting this evening. Good evening, everybody. A night across the board, and boy, what a night it is. Across Santa Monica, California, the weather is soothing down, but oil and gas prices and energy and also wheat prices surging out of control. How does this impact your wallet? All the latest details in tonight's 1 hour special broadcast of Evenings LA across the land. We're going to go over the incredible money that the president has now dedicated, $80,000 of additional new checks, and the incredible money for third stimulus needed in view of the events unfolding and why energy crisis situations are not being fixed. New comments from the White House today. New comments from the Federal Reserve as well. The Vladimir Putin's acts of aggression advancing even against women and children. What's being done on that? Covered in tonight's recording. We'll be analyzing how a recessionary environment could be in front of us with wheat and grain prices out of control, and this is different than oil and gas. You may be hearing about gas prices at the pump. But what are our partner countries doing? I have the latest details on that, plus how to get big money and big checks. It's all at issue in tonight's 1 hour broadcast, and it starts right now from the shores of Santa Monica, California, sending our prayers to the people of Odessa in this beautiful footage right tonight. Fourth stimulus is the Build Back Better Act, and it pays millions of dollars to Americans across the board. But tonight, great hope, as a $80,000 of stimulus checks have now been dedicated to be sent out before anything else. This is before CR for stimulus. This is before SS300. This is before anything we've ever seen in this history of channel. And the program is going live as early as this coming Monday. If you've been with this channel since day one, we showed viewers how to get money as soon as the EIDL grant went live, as soon as the PUA went live. And this is money you want to get, because it's a lot of it. How much? It's $15,000 to $80,000 of checks per household, and you qualify for it. It's not something you're going to see on broadcast media, and it's only something you're going to see in America's most watched primetime financial news show in America, Evenings LA Tonight. We're going to go over those incredible checks in just a second, but let's start with the Build Back Better Act that passed by the President of the United States in the House several weeks ago, now in the Senate, and now it's going to the finish line, he says in that State of the Union address just days ago. What is in there? It's 3 clusters of checks and 3 add-on checks. And those incredible checks are needed. Let's analyze each of them across the board. In that Build Back Better Act, there is 3 clusters of checks that amount to at least $15,000. And what is in there? Let's look at it. In that first cluster, hazard pay. That is the Earned Income Tax Credit, a third stimulus extended 1 more year. $4,000 of care for children and elderly with checks for them. $3,600 checks for young children, the household checks to repair your home, and then $550 checks for college students, and then more checks to buy a new electric vehicle, $12,500. Now, there are 3 add-on checks with Incredible Recon, and those add-on checks are huge. The first one comes from the shores here in Santa Monica, California, where you're watching Evenings LA Tonight. $25,000 for the purchase of your first home. Got in there by Maxine Waters, the legislator in California. Added in the house, staying in there just a little bit less, given to the seller in your name at the time of escrow. Let's look at that second of 3 clusters in that Build Back Better Act, 4 stimulus recon, addressed by the President of the United States in the State of the Union address, and going to the finish line. Home repairs and paid leave got in there, and a staying in there. How much is that paid leave? It's a lot. And what is paid leave? Paid leave is if you have to stay home due to sickness or illness. W-2, 1099, you all qualify. So how much money would you get? $1,700 a week you would get if you make $70,000 or more per year. Split in half, $35,000 annual salary, and split in half if you make $15,000 annual salary. Now, if you don't work, but your son or daughter does work and they have to take off of work because of you, then they get it 1099 W-2. Home repairs to weatherize your home also got into this second cluster of checks. Now, the second add-on of checks comes from Bob Casey, a campaign promise for Joe Biden, a little bit less than $250 billion of free home health care for seniors and people on disabilities. Yes, can you imagine if you get sick and you have to stay home, it's not currently covered? Well, they got it in there. Now, let's turn to that third cluster of checks where we find even more deliciousness. Free internet for all checks, seniors checks, farmers checks, independent contractors checks, and checks for nutrition. When we look at the seniors, they got 2 on the House and 3 coming from the Senate, folks. On the House side, they got in there the Medicaid gap fix. They'll provide years of workaround insurance to uninsured people in 12 Republican holdout states. And then they also got in their hearing checks. Yes, you'll get a check for a hearing aid. Dental, vision, and lowering the eligibility age of Medicare from 65 to 55. A provision that the senators vowed to add in there as well. And we're talking about the senators adding checks as Incredible Recon. What else would they add in there? MSC. This is a body of legislation that would add additional checks to the recon that already has at least $15,000 to $60,000 of checks. So who gets an MSC? What is an MSC? How do you get paid? And what is that issue? An MSC is, again, more checks to be added to the 4 stimulus recon that already has $15,000 to $60,000 checks in there already. This is a monthly IRS stimulus check that comes out to you represented by legislators of the Senate. They tell tens of thousands of viewers of LALATE since spring of last year that they're putting that MSC provision in there, and they're going to pay it out the same way that third stimulus paid out. So who got a third and who would get this fourth? Single individuals, $75,000 less, you get it. Married couple, $150,000 less, you get it, double it. Family of 4, quadruple it. And if you're on benefits, SSI, SSDI, Social Security, or railroad benefits, you get as well. It's not income, it's not taxable. And it's not California stimulus, we get surfboard instead. And there you go. How much money is it? $2,000 the first month, $1,000 thereafter for up to 6 months. This, again, is a program of additional checks, in this case, automatic adult checks, that would be added on the Senate side that the senators say they're adding in there. Joseph Biden, during the State of the Union address, mentioned the Build Back Better Act multiple times, said all those incredible provisions are going out, and he said that since then. So those checks are going out, the Build Back Better checks. But to everyone's surprise, right after that State of the Union address, the president announced $80,000 of more stimulus checks going out to millions of Americans. And this is a little bit different. This is much what brings us back to the history of this channel on day one. On day one of this channel, I showed viewers how to get an EIDL grant and loan, went live. I showed viewers how to get a PUA, just went live. Well, this one's going live, and you ain't going to hear it on broadcast media, you ain't going to hear it on print media. You're only going to hear it on Evenings LALATE. You're watching a special 1 hour broadcast, the most watched financial news show in prime time. And I'm going to go over how to get that check and those $80,000 of them later in this video. But first, let's turn to the other thing you need to know tonight, which is CR for Stimulus 1.0. The President of the United States has a continuing resolution set up for just a few days away from now. It's mid-March, and this is where a potential next check could land. The CR for Stimulus is a continuing resolution. Advocated and created on this channel back in 2020, now we have an inherent deadline in front of us, and what does it look like? Let's go over the details tonight. A continuing resolution is set up for mid-March to fund the federal government. CR. Inherent deadline, yes, mid-March. Amount, $1.5 trillion of discretionary funds. The discretion, Joe Biden's cabinet members. And there we go. It's far more than enough for a $2,000 stimulus check, and he can get it done. We got it done in 2020. In 2020, we had seen a first stimulus check land in our hand. We used it up. Then we needed more. We were told about a second stimulus package, 11 months of negotiations, Nancy Pelosi and Steve Mnuchin, and no deal. So I said, get a check into something else. I came up with the idea. Why not put a check into continuing resolution in December 2020? Inherent deadline, bipartisan support, get it done. And I created the idea on this channel, CR for Stimulus 2020. You, as the Purple Power community of this channel, advocated for it, calling legislators, picking up the phone, calling their staff offices in D.C. and say, put a stimulus check in the December 2020. And they did. Millions of Americans got that $600 stimulus check in December 2020 because of my creation of this channel, and because you, Purple Power, the community of this channel, advocated for it as well. So where are we tonight? Another CR lined up. And 5 weeks ago, we brought it back on this channel. CR is now set up for mid-March, a continuing resolution to fund the federal government. Done. Inherent deadline. Bipartisan support. Negotiation complete. Funding is funded. $1.5 trillion. All we have to do is tell them to make sure they put a $2,000 stimulus check in there. And that is far more than enough funds to get that $2,000 stimulus check in there. But out of nowhere, far before that, out of complete surprise to us, on Friday, the United States announced $80,000 of new stimulus checks. Now, folks, this is a big surprise that came out of nowhere. It leapfrogs in front of CR for Stimulus, and it's even before SS300, which we're going to go into right now. SS300 is the opportunity to raise your benefits up $200 to $300 more per month. Proposed as Elizabeth Warren platform for running for president in 2020, Joe Biden adopted it. When he became president, he put it on joebiden.com, part of his presidential platform. The concept is very simple. Your benefits every year are assessed against a benchmark. That benchmark is COLA. If COLA goes up, your benefits go up. Now, the way the benefits go up is once they go up, they never go down. So let's say they go up 2% this year, and next year it's flat. They don't go down. They stay up at that level permanently. So Elizabeth Warren and then Joe Biden said, replace COLA with inflation. This is easy. You know that inflation is high, and yours has the highest price point right now. So Joe Biden promised to swap COLA for inflation. Well, SS300 is on, baby. The advocacy to Joe Biden to swap out COLA to inflation is happening right now, because guess what? Inflation's at its highest price point tonight. And the breaking news tonight is that millions of Americans are feeling the impact of inflation. And the numbers are very telling across the board. On Friday, the major new numbers for the February jobs reports were released. And it showed that millions of Americans returned back to the workforce because no new jobs were available. That's the good news. The bad news was that when they returned, they got 5.1% more in salary than the year before. Salaries went up, but inflation had gone up 8%, meaning they went back to work because of inflation, and they got paid less compared to the rate of how inflation's going up. This is why SS300 is needed. By swapping COLA for inflation, your benefits will go up $200 a month right now because inflation is tracking about 8%. And then based upon where it's tracking by the end of this year, it'll be about 4%, meaning you get another $100 when they reassess at the end of the year. Now, what's part of the equation when we're looking at this? Part of the equation is Joe Biden's opportunity to get that swap out now before this guy, Jay Powell, brings down inflation. What's at issue? Jay Powell is head of the Federal Reserve. He governs monetary policy in the United States, and his job is to bring down the price of inflation. You can't keep inflation at 8%, or in some states, 12% right now. So how does Jay Powell do, and what are his options, and what's the great news tonight, based upon the comments that Powell made this week? The Fed chair has opportunities, and those opportunities are 5 meetings in 5 months, called FOMC meetings. At those meetings, he raises interest rates. He can raise them double or single. He can do 2 interest rate spikes in one meeting or 1. And usually as a Federal Reserve chair, his job is to give a little bit of clarity, but not to give too much, not to put himself in a corner so that he doesn't have wiggle room. But with Vladimir Putin's acts of aggression, Jay Powell had to pivot and give us a little bit more. His comments this week were absolutely incredible. What did he say? He said, for March, I'm raising your interest rates up a quarter basis point, the lesser of the 2 strengths, the lighter of the 2 strengths. And then I'm going to stay at a quarter basis point thereafter because I don't know what's going on with Vladimir Putin. So stay calm. I'm bringing inflation down, but not too fast. I don't want to cause stagflation. I don't want to cause destabilization of the economy. That's great news, and it's great news for your SS300. Why? Because inflation is really tracking right at about 8% right now. And that means that if Joe Biden makes that phone call right today, your benefits would go up today. If Joe Biden made the phone call tomorrow or next month, you'd also go up about 8%. That'd be about $200 more per month, and then about $100 later this year. So Joe, make the phone call. The latest details on that coming up later in this video. But the exciting details is that $880,000 of new stimulus checks per household has been announced by the White House. Are you ready to get that money? That's coming up in the second half of this video. We'll be looking at 2 economic forces that the White House has looked at and not looked at, and why the White House needs to pivot very quickly to deal with them. They're all being impacted by Vladimir Putin. What are they? Wheat and oil prices, gas prices. Will they be coming down? How will they come down? What does Joe Biden need to do? And what's the situation unfolding at Treasury? And why has Treasury done and not done certain things across the land? We'll be looking at the oil and gas situation tonight and what could change this coming week. New comments coming from the White House on how to deal with the situation as Vladimir Putin's disruption of delivery of oil and gas from the Black Sea and wheat and similar products like corn could be impacted as well. Wall Street betting some of these risks in the markets, but other risks not embedding. Those details and more coming up as we go into a big second half. We'll be back with you in just 60 seconds. But first, if you need assistance from the community page, here's a little bit about the community page. I'll see you back in 60 seconds as a big 1-hour special broadcast of Evenings LA continues. If you want money right now, not 5 days from now, and not 5 weeks from now, then reach out to the community page. The volunteers can help you find that money for rent and utilities. That's at news.la.com/community. The community page features a series of volunteers who are viewers like you. They can help you find rent, utilities, SNAP, food benefits, mortgage assistance, and help you with eviction moratorium questions as well. Their Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram individuals reach out to them and indicate the city and state you're from, and they'll get back to you shortly. That's a community page. Volunteers working for you, viewers helping one another. Stay with LA for more. Join LALATE daily for the excitement of the new LALATE live daily. The excitement starts on mornings LALATE at 9 a.m. Home LALATE returns at 11 a.m. daily. And then afternoons LALATE at 1 p.m. Join us daily as the excitement continues live from Santa Monica on LALATE. And good evening, everybody. I hope your evening is well. We are on the shores of Santa Monica, California tonight, but overseas the situation unfolding dramatically as corridors that are supposed to be dedicated for women and children to flee war-torn Ukraine have now been blocked by Russian soldiers. Of the latest details on that humanitarian issue, meantime, how the wheat and grain and gas prices issue is really unfolding across the board. And of course, stay to the very end of this video because guess what? I'm going to show you how to get $80,000 of new stimulus checks announced. It's a big night of breaking news in this 1-hour special broadcast of Evenings LALATE, America's most watched show in prime time. Let's go right into the exciting details tonight with the incredible sums of money now being dedicated for millions of Americans in a new stimulus program. $80,000 of checks, $15,000 to $80,000 per household. And this is something you're not going to hear anywhere else except on a primetime show like Evenings LALATE. The White House, in a very quiet statement right after the State of the Union address, announced that a new program will provide $15,000 to $80,000 of stimulus checks to households. If you're a viewer of this channel, you're likely to qualify for it. Why? Because the amount and the eligibility is much like the stimulus check eligibility. Third stimulus check, fourth stimulus check, second stimulus check. Single individual, $75,000 less. Eligibility, married couple, $150,000 less. Eligibility for this, much the same. So what is it called? If you're a member of this channel, which you should be, the link is under the video, you now see this in the membership newsletter. And revamped last Friday night, it's now included with links to apply and the website to go to get the money. It's called the Homeowners Assistance Fund. It's overseen by the U.S. Department of Treasury and will provide an average payment of $15,000 to $80,000 to households for this money. How do you get the money? Through the website, it will redirect you to your local states that will be running the programs across the nation, every state except New York. It's for individuals who have a primary residence, and it will be for monies that many viewers of this channel have asked for since day one but not been available. It includes things like property taxes, mortgage payments, homeowners insurance, association fees, home repairs, and other items like utilities. Average payment is $15,000 to $80,000. You don't have to be behind on any bills. How do you get this money? Where's the link? Become a member of this channel and get that newsletter Monday through Friday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time via the YouTube alert system or the LALATE alert system, and open it up. It's now revamped with a link right into the application. Again, this is $50,000 to $80,000 of checks. Now, if you're with this channel on day one, on April 20th of 2021, I launched and I said, hey, you know what? There is a new program going live, PUA, get this money. There's a new program with EIDL, get this money. This, again, is also a new program about to go live. So it's not live and paying out today, but will go live as early as this coming Monday. So you want to stay on top of this subject. You want to stay with this channel. I'll be watching the websites. I'll be watching the state local situation, and I'll give you updates, much like how we did on day one of this channel. If you have your state going live, send me a message. If you see you got your application approved, send me a message. We'll be on top of the story as it breaks by the minute and by the hour. Now, when we're looking at the big money across the land, we're also looking at SS300. And SS300 is impacted by the rate of which inflation is coming down. Jay Powell this week said that he's only going to do a quarter basis point in the March meeting. But what is he going to do thereafter? And does Joe Biden need to pivot very quickly and get that COLA swap for inflation for my beneficiaries? Let me go over the latest details on that right now. The situation tonight is that Jay Powell says he's staying around a quarter basis point for the next few meetings. This is good because guess what? That would bring down inflation slowly, but not quickly. And that is in view of the world events of what's happening in Vladimir Putin. What does Jay Powell say? He basically says he doesn't know what's going to happen with Putin, and that I can't come in too strong and bring down inflation down too quickly. We have extraordinary uncertainty at the moment, and that we would be prepared to move more aggressively by raising the federal funds rates more than 25 basis points at its subsequent meeting if this is not enough right now. Translation? We don't know what Putin's doing. So we don't want to come in too strong and destabilize the U.S. economy by using interest rates too high, bringing down inflation, coming down too fast. Translation, Joe, make the phone call. Joe, make the phone call right today and get that COLA swapped out for inflation. Remember, the way this works is you want inflation tied to your benefits when it's highest. It's highest now. It's going to come down. But it ain't coming down in 30 days, is the great news tonight I can report to you on evenings. Now, when we talk about inflation, when we talk about SS300, and when we talk about Build Back Better Act, what's important to know? That your value of your check has to have a value. And if the value of the check is devalued because of a recessionary environment, then suddenly all these incredible sums of money I've gotten you have no value. Well, the situation is all because of Vladimir Putin. What's at issue? In the United States, you're going to hear this week 2 stories, front page news. No, I correct myself. You're going to hear one story, and you're not going to hear the other one. You're going to hear about oil, and you're not going to hear about wheat. Why are we not hearing about wheat? Let me tell you the background of what's going on right tonight. And it's very serious. The Black Sea, which Vladimir Putin is now focusing his aggressions upon, is an exporter of wheat. And Ukraine and Russia are also exporters of oil. Now, you may have heard about gas prices going up, and you may have heard about the impact of gas prices by the Ukrainian invasion. But have you heard about the impact of wheat? No. The 2 subject matters could cause the same problem. Unfortunately, the White House is only addressing one slightly and the other one not at all. Which one are they doing and which one are they not? Let's go over the details right now. Oil. Oil has become a front page news story for obvious reasons. The United States only imports 5% of its oil from Russia, so we're not a major importer of oil. But other countries do import from Russia and are dependent upon oil. Those countries are like Italy. With Russia no longer available to provide oil to countries that we do business with, like Italy, where does Italy get gasoline from then? That's the first question. Second, as less oil is available because of Russia, then the price of gasoline at the pump goes up here domestically. So what do we do to solve the situation as well? That's another part of the equation. And meantime, what is the White House doing to fix the situation to ramp up production of gasoline in West Texas domestically? That's also part of the equation as well. 3 complex elements, not particularly difficult to solve, but let me tell you the situation tonight and what the White House is and isn't doing with gasoline domestically and also internationally. The situation is that domestically, the White House has opportunities to fix the gasoline problem, but hasn't pursued them appropriately. And what's going on? Let me tell you the numbers and what you need to know. First, the concern. The concern is that if you have gasoline prices out of control, or wheat prices out of control, or any other commodity caused by the Russian invasion of Ukraine, the United States economy will go into recession. Not for 1 month, but 2 years. Unemployment will go up, business will shrink, stagflation will occur, and it will be a very bad economic environment. Well, this should be no surprise to anyone that works in the White House. I first detailed 100,000 Russian troops at the Ukrainian border in October of last year, telling millions of Americans on this channel this would be the major economic story of 2022. The White House certainly was prepared as well, and at that time they reportedly had Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen look at the situation of which commodities would be impacted by a Russian invasion of Ukraine. They looked at gasoline. We know tonight, based upon a Reuters interview of the White House, that the White House has not looked at wheat and grain. Now, let's look first at the situation of oil and what the White House is and isn't doing as well. The White House has 2 problems: the amount of gasoline in the United States and the amount of gasoline in our partner countries. Let's analyze it. How does gasoline work? Very simple concept. The more gasoline available, the cheaper it is. The less gasoline available, the more expensive it is. You can produce gasoline if it's in the ground in your country, and if you don't, then you got to import it. Now, if you can produce it, you store it, but you can't store gasoline indefinitely because no one has indefinite storage facilities. So how does this work? In the United States, our gasoline, for example, comes from West Texas. We can ramp up production, and we have extra storage facility. In other countries like United Arab Emirates, they're at full capacity of their storage. So they have to release those stored barrels before they produce more, and they can produce a lot more. In countries like Italy that are dependent upon gasoline from Russia, they're running out of gasoline. So they need gasoline to come from somewhere else. So what are the situations? What are the options? What is the White House doing? And what is the White House not doing? First, the White House has clearly indicated during a series of interviews in the last week that It has not responded to comments and questions from West Texas oil producers, Americans for Americans, saying we can produce more oil. Do you want us to produce more oil? White House has not reached out to them. No bueno. White House has the opportunity for West Texas to ramp up production for gasoline domestically, has not reached out to them, has not responded to the questions. And while West Texas can bring down our gasoline in the United States, not solved by the White House. So what's the latest details tonight? Tonight, the White House admits they can ramp up production in West Texas, but hasn't done it. In fact, not responsive about the situation at hand. What is the latest quote tonight on Evenings LALATE? We're looking in good position from what we know for the U.S. economy. We don't import a lot of Russian oil. That's true. But what else did the Cecilia Rouse chair of the White House Economic Council say? We're looking at other options we could take right now to cut the U.S. consumption of Russian energy. Okay. But what really most important is we maintain a steady supply of global energy. Again, unresponsive to the situation. Why is this unresponsive to the situation? Number one, the United States only imports 5% of its oil from Russia. That's not the part of the equation that anyone's worried about. The part of the equation that no one is getting a response from the White House is why are we ramping up production in the United States? Ramping up production in the United States will bring down the price of gasoline in the United States, and it has nothing to do with Russia, because Russian oil is only 5% of our U.S. economy. Oil can be ramped up in West Texas. And West Texas has said, we're ready to ramp it up for the American people. We're ready to ramp it up to bring down the price of gasoline. And we're ready to hear from the White House on when you want us to ramp up. But the White House is not answering that question. In fact, when asked that question, specifically the answer was, we haven't addressed the situation. Compelling? Yes, very compelling. During an interview that happened this last week, the Treasury Secretary under Janet Yellen, Wally Adamut, an 40-year-old Yale graduate, was asked, have you reached out to West Texas? Has the administration reached out to West Texas to increase oil production in the United States to bring down the price of gasoline? Answer, non-responsive. Asked again. Answer, non-responsive. This is as the White House understood that this was one of the major industries that would be impacted with a potential invasion of Ukraine by Russia as early as last October. The White House actually dispatched Janet Yellen at the time and back in October, says the Deputy Treasury Secretary, to analyze economic embargoes or economic impacts at home that would be impacted by a Russian invasion of Ukraine. Among the issues dispatched at the time, oil. So the White House told Janet Yellen in October to analyze the impact on U.S. oil with a potential invasion of Ukraine. So at least the order was there to do what needed to be done in the analysis. So, with that instruction in hand, what was the opportunities? The opportunities is to determine whether we could ramp up production in West Texas to battle any shortages that may be impacted internationally. Well, tonight the situation is unchanged because guess what? West Texas hasn't heard from the White House. West Texas is waiting for to hear from the White House. And West Texas could increase production in the United States of oil, even though we aren't dependent upon oil in Russia. Here's what's at issue. The White House keeps on pivoting on a particular subject matter that's really off point. We don't import oil from Russia much, 5%. That's not part of the equation. Senators, House Republicans, Democrats talking about banning Russian oil. Great. 5% of our economy imports Russian oil. That's not part of the equation. The part of the equation is we need to ramp our production here so that we bring down the price of gasoline in the United States. This is not a Vladimir Putin equation. This is a West Texas equation. You go to West Texas, say, yes, you have authorization to ramp up production, go do it. Why is this so difficult? Why has the White House not ramped up production in West Texas? And why is the White House so reluctant to ramp up production in West Texas? Or is it? During the State of the Union address, the president addressed certain subjects of this, but afterwards said, I'm open to other opportunities. Open to other opportunities? Is he ramping up production? He's not. So why is this ebb and flow about ramping up production? Why is this even a subject that we need even to discuss? At issue is the moderate Democrats. Moderate Democrats don't want to ramp up production of gasoline in the United States. They want us to get off of gasoline and go to electric vehicles. Right after the President of the United States addressed the American people during the State of the Union address, what did he do? He went on Twitter and retweeted a tweet talking about how you should go buy a brand new electric pickup truck from a GM auto manufacturer that retails at $50,000 a pop. On point? Potentially not. The issue at hand is that millions of Americans can't afford a $50,000 electric truck. Millions of Americans fill their gas cars, because that's what they have, a gas car. Millions of Americans can't afford an electric vehicle that runs $50, $60, $80,000. And the plants that Joe Biden keeps on talking about that are U.S. based, that are part of the forced stimulus recon, that get that $12,500, you haven't heard them extensively on this channel for several weeks, but tonight I'm going to address them. What's at issue? The president's agenda to get off of clean energy, to get onto clean energy by reducing oil production is also misguided, because the vehicles he wants you to buy are made in U.S. plants by U.S. labor and retail at a pretty penny, $50, $60, $70, $80,000. It's not like he's telling the millions of Americans to go buy a $20,000 new electric vehicle made in a union plant by union labor. No, he's touting vehicles that only super rich people can afford. And the issue at hand is this out of touch? Well, millions of Americans were polled about the president's State of the Union address, and they loved it. The new series of polls that came out overnight suggests that millions of Americans love the president's address of the Ukrainian crisis. They like his address of the situation economically as well. But it's in times of need like this that you don't want to be really polling people, because we should come together as a country, support our president at a time of economic crisis and world events where a dictator is trying to destroy an entire economy, an entire population. So it's not a time and place to say, do we like Joe Biden or not? You've got to rally behind the guy that supports peace on the other side of the planet. What's an issue tonight is that, however, when we turn to wheat and oil, the president's really not prepared for this. When we look at the situation with oil, West Texas production can be ramped up, not being done. West Texas says, we're ready to do it. We're ready to hear from him. No response. And when asked for a very clear answer why the White House has not reached out to West Texas to increase production, the White House pivots and talks about something that's off subject. We don't use much Russian oil. We got that, Joe. We don't use much Russian oil. We're talking about our oil. Now, that's what we have to do domestically. We as a country are dependent upon world economies that we do partnerships with. France, Italy, Germany, England. And if they don't have enough oil, and we do have enough oil, then guess what? Our economy can go into recession as well, because we're dependent on the stability of the countries we do business with. And I'm not talking about Russia. I'm talking about countries like Italy. Italy has not had the opportunity from the White House to really pivot to another source of oil. The White House has not really stepped on this point either. What's at issue? Let's talk about United Arab Emirates. This is one of the major allies of the United States. We've helped them time and time again. We've helped other countries, the OPEC plus nations. And this week, the OPEC nations met, OPEC plus nations, part of a consortium that determines how much gasoline to produce out of those countries. And guess what they said? We're upset about what Vladimir Putin has done. We denounce his acts of aggression against Ukraine. But as to increasing oil, we ain't doing it. Sorry. We're staying at the current levels. What does this mean? In the case of United Arab Emirates, it has lots of oil it can release. It's not releasing it despite people's needs in those countries. And by not releasing that oil from United Arab Emirates that's in storage, that means it can't increase production. Remember, you can only store so much storage facility. With storage facilities at full capacity in these countries, that means they can't ramp up production. And that means countries like Italy can't get oil. And that means that countries that are dependent upon that oil internationally that we do business on are still waiting to get relief and not getting it across the board. NATO, UN, and other countries across the board should have seen this back in October. We already knew this. We had that order from the President of the United States delineating that oil and gasoline is a solution that needs to be solved. But tonight, folks, another situation. Wheat. Why is wheat the silent surprise economic factor that no one is looking at and could really throw us into a major recession? Tonight, I'm going to go into the details of why the bread you buy at the market could ultimately throw us into a tailspin of recession. And this is something that no one had prepared for in the White House, the Treasury, back in October. And tonight, I'm preparing for it as well. What's at issue? When you have a potential invasion of a neighboring country, like Vladimir Putin, Ukraine, on the potential horizon back in October, you look at all the economic impacts, not just oil. You also look at wheat. And the wheat situation was very clear. Why? This is very simple, folks. You look in the beautiful Black Sea, a gorgeous part of the Ukrainian border, very rich in soil, much like some of the Mediterranean communities or the wonderful towns here in Southern California, rich soil along the water. It's a major region to produce, yes, wheat. Everyone knew that Vladimir Putin would head to those areas of the Black Sea. Why? Because he took Crimea in 2014 and annexed it. And this was not something unanticipated. Odessa is his latest target. You're looking at the beautiful town of Odessa. Odessa is the major port city of the Black Sea. Vladimir Putin is yet to take Odessa. His purpose of taking Odessa is not calamity, destruction, which may actually occur, but economic disruption. Why? As the major port export city of the country of Ukraine, he's trying to stifle the economy by having Ukraine not be able to export import. He's also trying to impact you at home. Why? Because Ukrainian wheat supplies many of our partner countries all their grain, wheat, and soybeans. That inability to provide that to the neighboring countries could destabilize those countries and then destabilize our prices. And guess what's happening? It's already happening. Here's what's happening tonight that can impact you faster than the price of oil. Wheat is going up. The wheat is too damn high. That's literally the expression of the channel tonight. The situation is that wheat prices are surging out of control because Ukrainian wheat is no longer part of the equation. Ukrainian wheat is no longer part of the equation, and our wheat prices are at an 8-time year high, 9-time year high. This is far more severe than what we talk about when we talk about gasoline or oil. Wheat is surging out of control, and if you're at the market, you've seen it already. Soybean, corn, and related agrarian products disrupted because they cannot get out of Ukraine, and that's training our prices back at home to record 10-year highs. The net result is that this situation is not solved. We go in recession. Not 1 year, but 2 years. Faster than even a recession with oil. You may have heard about the oil crisis in the 1970s, but you never heard about the wheat crisis. And you don't want to hear about the wheat crisis of the 2020-22 year as well. Where's corn tonight? Corn prices are trading out of control, up 19 to 29 cents. Soybeans are up 5 to 15 cents. And if you're viewing this channel a member, you're getting the latest updates in the membership newsletter nightly. The price of Chicago wheat went up 51 to 75 cents. Kansas City wheat went up 75 cents. And the numbers keep on surging, like Minnesota wheat up 18 to 60 cents. These are bad numbers, 8, 9, 10-year highs. This is why the situation needs to be handled quickly. But is the White House handling it all? In a Reuters interview this week, they asked the White House whether the White House had done anything to deal with the situation. And the answer was no. The White House has not considered any options across the board. Meantime, back in the United States, countries are having to pivot that you would normally not buy wheat from other countries we don't do business with. A White House official told Reuters that there's no serious consideration by the White House right now on how to deal with the wheat crisis. Really? Again, we all knew that Vladimir Putin was going to head to the wheat area of Ukraine in October of last year. No order by the White House to dispatch an analysis of the situation, how to deal with it and impact our economy back home. Then, no deal about how to fix it right now. White House needs to dispatch Treasury to deal with the situation, get wheat prices under control, realign, and make sure that our partner countries get enough wheat. Because if they don't get enough wheat, their economies go into recession, and so do ours. A very, very fluid situation across the board, and far from over. Back here in the United States, there's a lot of opportunities for you to get money. And viewers are getting big sums of money. And tonight I'm going to show you how to get more of that money starting right now. Third stimulus has been one of the big success stories of this channel, and viewers are getting big sums of money from third stimulus. And third stimulus is still paying out. Yeah, we have a lot of checks in this recording. Fourth stimulus recon, the Build Back Better Act, has lots of checks, $50,000 to $60,000 of checks. Plus that MSC that would be added in there, $2,000 the first month, $1,000 thereafter. We have CR for stimulus right around the corner of mid-March with that potential $2,000 stimulus check. We have SS300, and then we have those $80,000 of new checks announced on Friday going live next week. But what are these other checks from third stimulus? A big surprise. This channel launched in 2020. At the time, people needed money. And in fall 2020, I found it. It was rent and utilities and mortgage assistance. At the time, I just said, hey, grab it. There wasn't a lot of it. When third stimulus was in the works in December 2020, I had a preview of it exclusively on the channel. I said, when this becomes law, there's going to be a lot of it. Guess what? That's third stimulus is still paying out viewers big sums of money. And the viewership of this channel is still getting those big sums of money tonight. How can you get that big sums of money? Get your pen and paper out. And if you remember, get that newsletter out. It's featured in the newsletter. What is this? This is rent, utilities, mortgage assistance. And the viewership of this channel has gotten somewhere, anywhere between an average of 45,000 and as high as 150,000. Where do you get this money from? Here we go. You're going to reach out to your city hall, your city housing authority, your county hall, your county housing authority. And the keywords you're going to say are rent assistance because of COVID, mortgage or utility assistance because of COVID. What are you going to do? You're going to reach out to them and get those sums of money. You must reach out to all 6 places. You must put applications on file everywhere, and you must do multiple rounds. Now, tonight we see that those multiple rounds actually take a new face that we never saw before on this channel. Viewers are now, with those rounds, getting 5, 6, 12 months of rent, not the initial 3 to 5 months of rent that viewers were getting just a few days away. What's happened and why has it changed so dramatically across the board? The success stories that have come in the last few days show that viewers understand that you can get more sums of money than ever before. And here are the social success stories. Lorraine in Evenings LA's broadcast this week said, hey, LA, I got qualified for a program that pays 70% of my rent for next 9 years. Incredible. She watched this channel and she got 9 years of rent at 70% paid for. Then after that, it'll become a lifetime. But she's not alone. Viewers of this channel are now defying logic. The average round on this channel for viewership for rent and utilities is 3 to 5 months. But in the last few weeks, viewers have ramped it up to 10 months or more. Here's Nisi. She got $30,000 for this channel last year, got $10,000 last week, and got another $2,000 this week. Keep you in my prayers for the health and wishes. You should be present. I don't know. I think I'd fix the grain prices if I was. Bill Garacidi says, hey, LA, I got 1 year of rent from you this week. Thank you for your help. Incredible. 1 year of rent. And then we have Charles Garmon, who was in last night's Evenings LA show, got $1,000 of rent. Karen Phillips, she got $40,000. Excuse me, she got 3 months of rent and 3 months of utilities, and she really needed it. She says that she needed it right now more than ever before because guess what? She had just lost her jobs, and she didn't know how she was going to pay for that rent and utilities. Earlier in this video, we talked about that big money for $80,000. It may look like third stimulus, so don't get confused. It's an addition to third stimulus. You can get both of them. Brian Donahue is another success story. Brian Donahue reveals that he got a second round of rent this week, and this is 5 more months of rent. Wow, that is incredible. These incredible success stories keep on coming in view of the events unfolding with oil and gas internationally. And you need those big sums of rent. Bob Bacon in the live chat every night got 3 more months of rent this week. And then the situation keeps on getting better by the moment. Here comes Karen Joseph. She got $40,000 this week. And then another viewer, $50,000. You can do it as well. Get these incredible sums of money. They're available for you. It's third stimulus. So where do you do it? You reach out to your city, county, and state, and you get those big sums of money, open that membership newsletter, and get it across the land. The average viewer of this channel has gotten $40,000, but do it right now. Open that membership newsletter, get the details right away. And lean on those nonprofits because the nonprofits often pick up for these sums of money when the city and county doesn't have the money. Do it right away. The average viewer of this channel has gotten $45,000 from this third stimulus. And don't wait, that money is available across the land. When we look at the situation of oil and gas across the country tonight, folks, the situation is falling dramatically, and this is why you need money across the land. But what's happening with Vladimir Putin and his acts of aggressions that are impacting us at home? I'll be turning now to that part of the story tonight. As Vladimir Putin's acts of aggressions have involved both an economic advance against Western ally countries, a strategic advance, and a propaganda advance. But it's the human rights situation that tonight is the most disturbing across the board. What's happening on the human rights front? The human rights front went from good to bad in the last few hours. And potentially by the time of this recording, hopefully the situation will be improving. What do you need to know, and what is happening tonight on this front as well? Tonight, the situation is that a corridor that was established for refugees to flee war-torn Ukraine for women and children has been blocked. What's going on? During negotiations this week between Russian and Ukrainian officials, the only glimmer of hope was a deal to establish a corridor to evacuate war-torn cities of Ukraine and head to the Polish border. This is an area in which people could flee. Let's go over the visual. What would this look in your city back at home? It would look like your major highway has been cleared off. You can be told that during the following 5 hours of tomorrow and the day after, you can get your belongings and head down towards the Polish border. Flee during those hours. You will be safe. There will be no bombings. There will be no militia. There will be no military. That's the visual. So you prepare, you know the hour of the day, you get the official statement from your city leader in Ukraine, and you prepare your daughter and the mother and her grandmother head to that street at that hour of the day. That was the result of negotiations between Ukrainian and Russian officials. They did not give us details initially because they didn't want a major press event about it. That was part of the agreement. Fine with that. But what happened was, as those mothers and daughters went to those corridors, as we call them, and were ready to start walking, they heard it. What's it? Bombings. And then they saw it. What do they see? Russian military blocking their exit from their town. Not a good situation. And this is why, again, another human rights violation is being levied against Russia. It can't even agree to allow the peaceful exit of women and children from Ukraine to neighboring Poland through corridors that it actually negotiated with Ukrainian officials during hours of negotiations. This is abhorrent. It's absolutely abhorrent. And this shows the lack of kindness to manhood, to mankind, by a barbarian named Vladimir Putin. These evacuation corridors were set up in 2 Ukrainian cities, but Russia is now violating those orders. The time of this broadcast is made about 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on a Saturday. And Russian officials and Ukrainian officials are agreeing to sit down again to reopen these corridors. Hopefully, the situation will improve by the time you watch this broadcast. And all the latest details in the live chat when this broadcast airs. But the city of Mariupol, which is not featured in this graphic, this, of course, is the beautiful city of Gershon that was desecrated last week, was not afforded this opportunity. What happened? In the city of Mariupol, this is one of 2 Ukrainian cities where women and children were able to flee. They were given 5 hours to go into a corridor, which is basically a large section of the town, to exit and head to the Polish border. They prepared their belongings, they got ready to go. And what happened? They heard it. Bombings. And they saw it. Russian officials blocking their exit. Why is this happening? The official statement is going out on the Mariupol City Council website and via Telegram channel that Russia's forces, who had agreed to an all-out, complete ceasefire on early Saturday to allow the peaceful fleeing, then blocked it. Unfortunately, when we were already ready, the regular army of the Russian Federation began shelling along the corridor. You're looking at beautiful footage of Odessa, also at issue. Negotiations still underway right now. This doesn't give us a sense of security. As soon as we'll give a security guarantee, but we will additionally announce it. This is deplorable that even women and children cannot flee a war-torn country in an act of war. The NATO alliance is also calling upon Russia to acknowledge that these are women and children, they are not armed, and that they should be able to flee safely into Poland and Romania and not be blocked. President Zelensky has urged for NATO to establish a no-fly zone. That will not be happening. A no-fly zone would bring U.S. troops into the battleground because they would have to enforce the no-fly zone. U.S. officials are not displacing any U.S. troops currently for a no-fly zone. Meantime, Russian and Ukrainian officials are set to sit down again and potentially reach an agreement to allow the safe exit through these corridors, but we really don't know why tonight that Russia failed to stand by its agreement to allow women and children to safely flee into Poland. They left their homes, went to the corridors, and then had to turn back because they saw those Russians at the barricades. Tonight, the situation unfolding as the number of refugees grows from 500,000 to 2 million. Internationally, the situation is very fluid. Many believe that this war will not be 1 week or 2 weeks. My prediction is going to be several weeks at least. The situation is far from over, and what's Vladimir Putin's approach at the moment? His approach at the moment is economic control of Ukraine, and then potentially something worse. Now, here's a commentary that I want to insert tonight. And the commentary I don't take credit for. I actually defer to Christiana Amport. She had this comment earlier today. Vladimir Putin is quoted in a new quote tonight that is very troubling because the choice of words he uses. He says, Ukraine doesn't exist. When you say the words Ukraine doesn't exist, it doesn't mean that you now control it. It doesn't mean that you've controlled its economy. It means that there's a human genocide that is about to happen. These are very troubling words coming out of Vladimir Putin tonight. On the economic front, what is Vladimir Putin trying to do to Ukraine? He's trying to stifle its economy. Number one, he's trying to take the town of Odessa, which you're seeing in this footage here, the major port city, so that it cannot export to anywhere or import. So Ukrainians cannot get fed and cannot have any food or supplies, and that Western allies that depend upon that as well can't get their benefits across the board. Then, what is he also trying to do? He's trying to eliminate any power for the Ukrainian people. Yesterday, he took over the number one nuclear reactor in the country of Ukraine that provides 80% of the power for Ukrainian people. So he's trying to prevent any power, any food, and tonight, or at least at the time of this recording, trying to prevent anyone from fleeing Ukraine as well. He's now been designated as a war criminal, and a war criminal tribunal has now been reportedly established to begin the elements that need to begin. But back in the United States, more details that have to be addressed. Wheat, oil, gasoline. Certain things need to be addressed on the front back at home, and those can be done very quickly. International alliances between our partner countries need to be firmed up when it comes to economic issues like oil production and the amount of oil that we send out and the amount of oil that we have reserved. We can only stockpile so much oil, and after that we have to release some. And after we release some, then we can make some more. But we have to have agreements. And those agreements haven't happened. This White House is good with agreements. This White House has done fast agreements. And it's at times like this that we need fast agreements, that we're into the second week of this war, and we shouldn't be waiting another day for this as well. Tonight, I send my prayers and thoughts to the people of Ukraine. I certainly send my prayers and thoughts to the families, mothers and daughters, who went into those corridors in the last 24 hours trying to flee, having left their sons behind to battle the war. And they thought as sons and daughters, grandmothers, pregnant women, that they were going to be fine fleeing to the border, to only hear the sounds of desecration around them, to only hear the sounds of military ambushes in front of them, and to wonder, wait a second, what happened? Certainly in a digital era, we're beneficial because we have the opportunity as a city council in Ukraine to actually tweet out a message or post a Facebook message, get back in your home. Imagine we didn't have digital era in that environment as well. Finally, a very unusual kind act story that's sort of circulated out of nowhere today. If you didn't hear about it, some Americans have come up with the idea, and other people internationally, to book Airbnbs in Ukraine. Why? The way to send the money to Ukraine, some people thought, why not book Airbnbs at Airbnbs that would have existed just 2 weeks ago? The easiest way to get a money funneled into the country. Beautiful thoughts across the board. Viewers of this channel have also talked about how to send support to our troops. I want you to understand that your U.S. troops are not in Ukraine. They're in the NATO-based countries. And Vladimir Putin has not yet exerted any elements of aggression against those NATO-based countries. But we're only week 2 into this equation. The situation unfolding by the hour. I appreciate all your incredible support. If you have a private message about what you want to have covered on Evenings LALATE, send it to me. If you have a success story, send it to me. If you have a thought and commentary about another economic subject that you think at issue, or you want to send out some message, send it to me as well. It's a developing story, and there's a lot of elements at issue. Too much to cover sometimes in 1 hour broadcasts, but I really appreciate you helping this show grow and this community grow. As a family, we've come together stronger than ever before, the Purple Power community, and as a community, we are surviving and we're growing. In a week in which we took our masks off, and a week in which we heard a great State of the Union address, and the release of more checks, we're growing as a family. We're getting better. We're getting stronger. We're getting more resilient. And in times of economic crises like tonight, we're doing everything better across the board. We'll do better as a family, and we'll survive better as a community. It's a big night, and I send my prayers as always with the families overseas as Evenings LA continues. Stay throughout the night with Evenings.